Hi everybody. So in today's video, we're going to show you how to turn burl like this that you can just cut down in the woods. And we're going to turn these into end tables that are going to look like that. So some of the great ways that you can get the bark off of this here, you're going to basically use a draw knife, which we covered in there a little bit. You get these on eBay or an estate sale. The ones on Amazon aren't quite as good. If you look in there, it's got a groove in it. You can just tell the older ones are made better. So this works really good. I can't do it on camera. I need to hold it, but you just drag it off there. The other tool is this Hyde tool. This thing is great. You can't find the replacement blades. I haven't. If you do see them somewhere, please put a comment where I can buy these. I have yet to find them. But you buy the handle and everything in a kit. There's a quick release. It pulls here. They give you several different blades. They're very strong, and they'll help you get into these little nooks and crannies to scrape some of this stuff off, especially with the different tips. Basically, you're going to make it look, from this into something like this, and you can see it is very, very pretty. So again, this is Jack Pine burl, and it's pretty rare, but when you run across it, it is beautiful, especially when you get something as interesting as this. You can make a lot of cool stuff. So stay tuned. We're going to show you, again, a condensed version. So we kind of did it after the fact. So there's a lot of photos, and we're going to do some voiceovers. But stay tuned. We're going to cover that. So in this video, we're going to cover a little bit of this and what we've done. It's kind of a last minute thing. So we didn't get a chance to do every single step in here. But for the most part, we took these pieces of burl, we cut them to length, scraped all the bark off of them to reveal this, and it's absolutely beautiful. So what we've done on the bases is, this is Hackberry from our property in Lower Michigan. These are, of course, Jack Pine burl from our property in the UP. And basically the step is after you get all of the bark off of it, you're going to go ahead and sand it a little bit, put some clear coat on it. I like to give it another sanding afterward once we're finished up. And we have two different clear coats. One is our preferred one. We just didn't order it yet. And there's a backup kind that we have. They're all oil based. I'll put links to in the description of what we'd like to use for clear coats. And again, the Hackberry that we've harvested from our property in the Lower Michigan here. It's a beautiful wood. It reminds me kind of a walnut, but it's really hard. Even though this is down to maybe, I'd say probably about 10% last time I checked, moisture. It sands really hard. So when this blank that I cut out was drying, it cracked. So checking happens, especially when you cut blanks like this, no matter how thick they are. I did plane some of these down, at least the bottom ones, they would fit in my planer. The top ones I used a router sled and got most of it off, but there's some marks in here we're gonna try to get out. And we cleared the bottom half, so we haven't got a chance to clear, up here yet. So we have to sand off like some little pieces right here. But anyhow, what we're going to do here in a minute is I'm just going to sand these down, and then we're going to get it prepped for the final coat of clear on the tops. We'll sand these down, do it again, and we'll show you some pics of the finished product. So again, it's pretty simple setup here. The only thing that was a little tricky is what we did in the bottom is I traced this out, and you'll see in some of those pictures, and then I routed it so this would sort of countersink in a little bit. Now for the bottom pieces, we pre-drilled and put screws in up from the bottom. The top pieces, of course, we didn't want to do that. You'd see the screws. So what we did is we just drilled some holes, measured them, and put some little wood plugs in there to kind of hold them in place, and then use some wood glue. So these are going to end up being a gift for a family member. And but stay tuned, because we're going to be doing some work with this Hackberry. We've got a bunch that we put on the mill, and it's drying right now. I don't have a kiln, but what we use for a kiln is our basement. It's really warm, and we put a fan on it and just run the fan on it for several hours a day. And I'm guessing, it's probably been down there a few weeks, and last I checked it was about 11%. Maybe another few weeks, and then we'll be able to work on the cabinet. So stay tuned for that video. That's going to be happening real soon. So anyhow, we're going to do some sanding on this. We're going to get it ready to do some clear coats, and you'll see some finished product pictures here very, very soon. So thanks for watching. So I wanted to show you this really quick, a little trick I'm doing here. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on this when I'm sanding, and I did mention this is like super hard. So what I'm going to do is just sand it on top of these two pieces of 2x4 that I put out there. So this thing basically is suspended, so I don't have to put all the pressure on the base, and if I push too hard over here, I don't have to worry about wobbling it around. And my dust collection system, I recently picked one up, super pumped with it, but I need to plumb it. to get out here in this part of the shop. So meanwhile, what I've done is I've basically just hooked this up to a shop vac, which works pretty darn well, to be honest with you. It's got a lot of suction. So this is what I'll be doing to try to keep it somewhat clean in here. We're sort of doing a renovation in the shop area a little bit. We're working on it slowly. But anyway, back to the task at hand. We're gonna go ahead and get this sanded. I'm gonna start off with some 120, try to get some of these fine marks out and see if it's working. Otherwise, I'll drop down to 80 and then back myself back up. And we'll finish with about 220. Because this is so hard, I'm just gonna use the palm sander and do it that way. It's pretty close, it's not bad, but anyway, like I said, we're gonna go through, so stay tuned. So burl is basically a deformity of the tree, and it's caused by, it could be viral, fungal type infection, something that may have happened to the tree, stress. So it's quite rare to find it, but we were lucky to find quite a bit of pieces on the property. As you can see here, we were very lucky to find a bunch of these pieces. Some were quite big. So we brought them home, scraped all the bark off, and we've been making projects with them, including these tables. Some of the projects that we made were a couple lamps like this here, just clear coated it. We didn't even put any stain on it. And my wife made the lamp shade, which turned out pretty cool. In this picture here, you can see the raw hackberry where we cut the bottom and top for these two tables. And then here we have a router sled, homemade. I want to make a wood one someday, but this one did the job for this particular work because these guys were too big to fit in my planer. The router sled worked out very, very well for us. So in order to find center of these very weird shaped little slits of a log, you put a compass on one end and you draw a half circle, and then you go on the other side and you do the same. And you just keep going on all 4 points. Once you do that, you draw a line across where they intersect and you find the center. It's a nice trick. We used it for the base, and we also used it for the actual burl logs themselves. And of course, we put little marks on the very end, so when we wanted to line it up on the bottom, it made it quite a bit easier. After cutting these to length, of course, which leveling those was a treat. See how it lined up right there? And there. So once we finished it, all we did was just outline it. And some of those had some pretty neat little things, like you'll see that little piece of burl there that we outlined. Once we did that, I grabbed the Dremel, put a little bit on the end of it, and just routed it out, maybe, I don't know, probably about 1/8 of an inch. Drilled some holes, and then we put in these pegs to help keep it a little bit sturdy. We did that only for the top, and then the bottom, basically, once we fit it in there, we just pre-drilled some holes and put in a couple screws to hold it, along with glue. In these picture shows, once we had it countersunk and put in, it's not perfect. So there's a little bit of gap in the edges. We use this glue. I'll put a link in the description for that. A little bit of sawdust, and then the activator, of course, and then we could sand that down to sort of pretty it up at the bottom. One of the little tricks about keeping things nice and tidy.
Okay, so we are really excited to show you the finished product of the end tables that we made. As you can see, one is taller than the other, and that was on purpose. The beauty of the burl we wanted to keep. Fortunately, that made the tables 2 different sizes. I also put a lamp on there just to show you what it looked like, how big it is on the top. Before we clear coated, we scuffed the burl ever so lightly with a gray Scotch-Brite to help knock down any splinters or anything that may have been left over from scraping the bark. As was in the beginning of the video, we did fill the cracks with epoxy, and you'll find the description of the epoxy below. So yeah, we're pretty excited to show you the finished product of these. And we are really excited to share with you more videos to come. If you liked this video and you thought it was helpful, please click the like button and subscribe.